we're going to be talking a little bit about fasting. Let me check some stuff real quick. The big thing about fasting, and this is obviously a personal thing, is I don't do it the same way everybody else does it, which is, I mean, obviously a shocker for everybody. But the big thing that we're going through, there we go. The big thing that we're going through is a lot of the stuff that we're doing is based off chemistry. And I don't like the way that people fast chemically. We can debate this. We can go back and forth. This is going to cause lots of firestorm. Everybody's going to be pissy about it, but this is the way I do it. The reason that we went through everything we've gone through so far is to build the basis for what everything else is that we're doing. The fat oxidizing state, it's similar to ketosis. You can go with ketosis, but the fat oxidizing state part of the diet is real important. It is the foundation for everything else we're going to be doing. It's going to be kind of the basis for all the other chemistry we're going to talk about. So that's why I wanted to spend some time on it. I didn't want to have the argument that keto or fat oxidizing state was unhealthy. It's not, like I went over Friday. It's how I fix diabetes. So the sugar state, the sugar fuel source, is causing diabetes. So I think there's a much higher argument that the sugar state is the unhealthy state, and the ketotic state is the healthy actual state to be in. Especially since MIT just released research showing that in a fat oxidizing state, you actually produce, generate, and repair your own stem cells in your gut, in your musculature, everywhere. So, and that is a big piece of some of the research that I've based a lot of the other chemistry that we're going to go over on. So fat oxidizing state, ketotic state is, for a lot of people, not everybody, is going to be the state that you really want to start being in. So if you're going to say, what's the one thing that I could dedicate to really help with my health and help with my body and help with everything else, research glycemic function. You don't have to be in ketosis. You don't have to be in a fat oxidizing state. The number one thing you guys need to make sure you do is research glycemic function. It is the key to fat loss. It is the key to muscle growth. It is the key to health, every single thing. If you guys look at that blue zone deal, the guy like, oh, all these people live to be 100. How did they do it? If you look at their diet, all of it was low glycemic, okay? So that glycemic function is the key to how the sugar system works. The reason people are getting fat, the reason the sugar system is so unhealthy, the reason the sugar system is killing everybody is because you guys are, I say you guys, everybody's using it wrong. You're using processed foods, you're using high glycemic function. You don't understand the difference between this food you're eating here, this food you're eating here. That's why it's like, oh, this is a health food. Oh, no, it's not. That's the type of thing. So learn your glycemic function. It's going to be the number one thing that you guys can do to really, really help everything else. Like I said, it is the foundation for all the other research, for everything else that I'm doing. So as we start getting into all the supplementation I'm taking and why I'm taking it and stuff like that, remember, that is based off of a ketotic state or a fat oxidizing state. So, okay, we're done with that one. Now, people keep asking me, like, how are you eating 2 pizzas? And I'll share this picture on Instagram later, and I think I've shared it everywhere else, but like, people are like, how are you eating 2 pizzas, blueberry cheesecake, and pecan pie and losing the weight you're losing? It's a big chemical structure, and a lot of the things in here are 100% conjecture. Like, I read research, and it was like, hey, these things do these things. And so I was like, well, let's run a little experiment on me because I'm here, and let's see how it goes. And it's worked out really, really well. But there's a big piece of it that's fasting. How I get into fasting and how I work with fasting on individual people for cravings and things like that's a little bit different. But let me give you the basic overview of why the way I like to fast. So the first thing is that you have to get into a fat oxidizing state. I don't see any other way to do this in a healthy manner. If you're still in a glucose-fed state, and this is why Ozempic is doing a lot of damage, or semaglutide, or however it is, because everybody's using it wrong. Again, no one wants to look at the chemistry. Everyone just wants to look at, the possibilities of outcomes and go that route. So the reason that semaglutide is damaging people, or Ozempic is damaging so many people, isn't because it's bad. It's because you guys are using it wrong. The doctors are prescribing it wrong. If you stay in a glucose-fed state, what that means is that you're consuming a little bit of glucose here and there throughout the day. You're going to end up eating all your muscle tissue. And the reason for that is because if your body thinks it wants to stay in a glucose-fed state, eating sugar all the time, what's going to end up happening is that when you eat a little bit of sugar throughout the day, you're like, oh, my calories are low. But we've already discussed how anybody who's basing their stuff off calories has no idea what they're doing. So anyway, if you're starting to look at this, When you eat a little bit of sugar throughout the day, your body stays in a sugar-fed state. But a little bit of sugar throughout the day cannot fuel your body. So what your body does is it makes its own through what's called gluconeogenesis. And I've been told not to use big words, but you guys are going to have to get used to it because I'm not going to stop just because other people think you're dumb. Gluconeogenesis is how your liver produces glucose for your brain and for your blood. Even in a ketotic state or a fat oxidizing state, you still have to have sugar in your blood. That's why your body will create it. And it makes it from amino acids. It gets those amino acids from your muscle tissue if you're not eating. It'll rip apart your muscle tissue. It'll rip apart other proteins in your body. It'll get a hold of the alanine, the malate, and the glycine, those type of things. It'll go to your liver and it'll make more sugar. By the way, this is also called the dawn effect. So this is why I tell everybody, if you're going to be doing this diet, you need to work with people who understand this metabolic system. What will end up happening is that in the morning, your blood sugar will be higher. And people are like, oh my gosh, you're diabetic, because they don't pull insulin and they have no idea what they're talking about. But what ends up happening is that because all your blood, your brain, everything needs this sugar, your body will tear apart your muscle tissues, make some sugar, put the sugar in the blood for your blood. This is a normal thing. This is supposed to happen. Don't worry about it. A lot of people, when they're starting to fast and they're starting to do ketosis and they're starting to do this type of stuff, their blood sugars in the morning will be 105 to 120. That's okay. That's normal. If you look at the insulin should also be low. If your insulin's high, again, if you're diabetic, this is a different story. But if your insulin's high, we need to kind of look at what's going on. But typically what you're going to see is you're going to see a little bit higher on the sugars in the morning. Again, totally fine. I actually keep mine a little high by taking extra collagen, specifically to make sure that my breath doesn't stink, because I don't want to be in ketosis. I want to be in a fat oxidizing state. So I have to make enough sugar for my blood and for my brain. We'll get into that when we talk about supplementation. Now, the big thing on fasting, if you're just going to be fasting, work into a fat oxidizing state first, so your body is burning fat before you take away all of its fuel source. When you take away its fuel source, if it's in a fat oxidizing state, it'll be like, whatever, and just eat the fat that's on your body. That's how it works. If you're in a glucose-fed state, it'll start eating your muscle tissue as well. So that's why we need to make sure we're in a fat oxidizing state first. The next thing is that, and this is where everybody's going to lose their mind, I don't believe that you should fast without taking supplementation. Your body can make all the ATP it wants, all the energy it wants out of the fat that's on your body, which is what we want. That's a good thing. The problem is, where's it getting its CoQ10? Where's it getting its methylated B vitamins? Where's it getting omega-3 fatty acids? Where's it getting, all the amino acids? Where's it getting all the materials it needs to repair and rebuild your body? Does it have to sacrifice other things in your body, tear apart other things? That's not a great idea. That's a terrible idea. If it needs amino acids, it's going to tear apart your muscles. Do you want to lose muscle mass? That's silly. No, especially because guess where all your mitochondria live? We've talked about this. It's in your muscles. If you tear apart your muscles, you decrease the mitochondria, you decrease the total ATP to the body, you decrease the energy to the body. I don't think this is a good plan. By the way, if you're trying to make ATP and you don't have enough CoQ10, you will produce a lot of free radicals. You'll produce a lot of reactive oxidative stress. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about reactive oxidative stress and free radicals and the damage they do to the body. So again, if you're going to fast, you've got to increase your nutrients. Remember, your body needs energy. It needs ATP, not calories. It needs ATP, and it needs nutrition or nutrients or chemicals to build the cells out of. If you don't give it the nutrients to build the cells out of, it can't regenerate the cells. Here's the big thing. People go, how are you building muscle and losing fat at the same time? It's super easy. I'm working out really hard. I'm taking a ton of nutrients and I'm fasting, or I'm in a fat oxidizing state. It doesn't really matter because my body always has plenty of ATP. So it has the ATP for the energy to build the tissue. It's getting from my fat. So it's cutting my fat, oxidizing or getting rid of my fat, creating ATP. The ATP is used to build the tissue. And then I give it a bunch of nutrition, supplementation, and it uses the chemicals from the nutrition to build the tissue, which also requires ATP functionality. So in the repair process of the building of the tissue, the amount of ATP needed is giant, which means my body goes back to my fat and goes, hey, guess what? We need even more fat. We need even more ATP. We're going to burn even more stuff. So that's how a lot of this is happening. So as we start going through this, that's why you're like, oh, you're taking a bunch of supplements. Here's the other thing. The amount of supplements that I'm going to be taking as we go through this, I'm going to mention this multiple times, is not the amount that I'm saying you should take. One, I'm 230 pounds. I'm less than 10% body fat, so I require a giant amount to begin with. 2, I'm actually training for something very, very difficult. I'm working out really hard. So again, I require a little bit more. The other thing is that I treat sick people every single day. People with COVID, people with the flu, people with sinus infections, people with bronchitis, people, all kinds of people come in here, and I treat them every day for Lyme's or whatever their illness is. And a lot of these guys are immunocompromised. Like I said, they've got bad COVID, they've got long COVID, they've got Lyme's, they've got chronic fatigue, they've got whatever it is they've got. And I'm standing in a room with them breathing whatever they're breathing. And I don't ever get sick, and I don't want to get sick. So I'm taking extra things to prevent that. So as we go through these and you're like, man, this guy takes a bunch of stuff, there's a lot of reasons. And so as we go through them, you'll understand why. But so the rest of this week, we're going to start talking a little bit about supplementation, what we're doing. When you guys have questions, hit us up, questions@chalmerswellness.com. You can ask them here. On Fridays, we're going to be going over questions. We've already gotten some, and I guarantee we're going to get a lot on fasting. So that's kind of it. Right now, I'm running, because people always ask, I'm running a 47-1, which means I eat for an hour every 2 days. I built that, and I built that off of my normal schedule, which is a 23-1, which I eat once a day. The once a day thing, a lot of you guys who are in ketosis, it's going to be really, really easy to get to. Like I have a lot of guys who are like, oh, I can never fast. And then we get them in a fat oxidizing state. We work with them for a little bit, and they're like, man, this once a day thing is super awesome. Saves a lot of time. You can really focus on what you're wanting to eat. You can eat a little bit more than normal. I love it. It works for me. It works for other people. If it doesn't work for you, that's cool. Everybody has to find their own space. But the fasting thing, or the schedule in which you're eating, you can do this really, really easily in a fat oxidizing state. The reason you can't in a glucose fed state is as soon as you run out of glucose, you get tired, you get fatigued, you start, that you get that crash. In a fat oxidizing state, you never run out of fuel because your body has fat on it. So if you're running fat for a fuel source and you've got fat, you can never run out of energy. So this is one of the reasons I really love the fat oxidizing state, because I'll go to seminars, I'll go to business meetings, I'll go travel, do whatever, and I just won't eat that day. I'm like, that's fine. The food that's here is not conducive to my body and my health. I'm not going to eat it. I just won't eat today. I'll eat tomorrow. And it works great for me. I've been doing this a long time, so it's a little bit different when I do it. So it's not something I expect people to do on day one. But as we go through it, we're going to go through more of this. The fasting stuff is going to come up. It's not very hard. We'll do a little bit more on it tomorrow. And then we're getting a supplementation, like I said, as we go on through this week. At the end of the week, we'll do a questions thing on Friday, and I'll dump all the research at pillarsofwellness.com. The other things, one of the reasons we're doing this is for my charity. The website's having to be rebuilt. I'll go into the whole story about why we had to change the URL and the whole deal soon. But we're doing it. The reason I'm doing this is for a charity. I found out that we could reverse or end PTSD and addiction 85% of the time, according to research, with using ketamine and psychedelics. We've known this since the 60s, but apparently we hid that information because we had drugs to sell, and psilocybin's cheap. So, and you can't patent naturally occurring things. So what we're doing is, if you go to the website, pillarsofwellness.com, and you guys buy supplements there, the profit from those supplements is going to go to my charity that we're used to end PTSD and addiction in veterans and first responders. So firefighters, police, paramedics, that type of thing. So if you guys want to go get some stuff as we go through this, pillarsofwellness.com. That's where all the research is going to be. That's where the store is, the whole deal. So you guys have a good day. We'll see you next time. Sorry I went long today.